Hey folks, today we're covering Tinto Talks 60, and this week Pavia is back, and he's covering, as he says here, something of a trending topic at the moment: what happens when a pope dies. And this was covered in last week's Dev Diaries. They were all around the Catholic Church. They got into a little bit of the Curia and what happens, but there's going to be more information here. They're also going to talk about the Reformation and the Council of Trent, but they're going to start with the Western Schism. This was between the Italian cardinals and the French cardinals, and what happened during this whole event. So you can see here, when a pope dies, some process needs to be started, and this will activate the papal conclave, which will determine the election of a new pope. You can see here, you'll get this pop-up: our chancellor reports death. This is if you're playing as the papal states in this example, popping up saying the current pope has died. He died of natural causes. We will need to, find a successor to him because you are playing as the papal states. You can see here, the chancellor reports papal conclave. We do not currently have a pope, so the country is now ruled through the papal conclave. Gustav Wilhelm Seeland has become head of the papal conclave. There's also a stability investment penalty here, so it's a bit harder to get better stability whilst this kind of election's going on. There is currently no possible heir, again, because it's elected. When the pope dies, the cardinals gather to debate who will be the new pope. This can be quick, but sometimes can take several years. Again, if you're playing as the papal states, it's going to be one of these cool scenarios where, you're playing as the state, so the pope is your leader, but he's also leader of the Catholic Church, so you get kind of half of the mechanics as if you were playing as the papacy itself, but you are playing as the papacy itself, so I don't know. It's one of these weird situations, which actually looks like it's going to be really cool to play through. So, of course, this process always goes swimmingly well with absolutely no issues, no historical versions of this going badly. If it is the year 1360 or later, a schism might strike the Catholic Church, making for a divided election. So again, this is based on the historical Western Schism. A schism has struck Catholicism and thrown the Curia into petty factionalism. This is where a faction of Italian cardinals kind of wanted to move the Holy See back to Rome. It had previously been under French control, and it was all around this internal battle to really bring it back to where it kind of should be, I guess. More based in Rome than in Avignon. So that's what's going to happen during this situation. You can see in the next screen, the Western Schism. This is the UI that you're going to get when this does happen. So you can see Rome, the start date, the Cahors, that's going to be the other faction. You can see King Philippe VI on the right. Obviously, it is against the Papal States and France, trying to battle for who's going to have the next pope. And then the Reformed desire, they're going to talk about that later on, so we won't cover it here. And then the Curia controls. And then further down, the main actions you could take: unity of faith, and then the supporters. So who's supporting the Papal States, who's supporting France, those votes, how many votes they've got, and then you can see actually neutral voters as well. So that nation hasn't decided which one. I guess you can maybe try butter them up, get them to join your side or not, which would be pretty cool. And then in the next UI, you can see how this process kind of continues. So in this example, they've hovered over the Rome side of the top bit of that UI, and the progress towards Papal State being able to call a council is at 0.2%. This will raise each month depending on how many cardinals supported. So I guess it's whoever gets to the 100% first, they get to call the council, and then their preferred pope will probably win out this election. As we saw above, there is the Show Unity of Faith option. Every location in a design province will gain Show Unity of Faith. It will change societal values by 100 towards spiritualist, as you're kind of, as it says, showing unity towards the Catholic faith, and really trying to reduce this factionalism as a whole. And then while these elections are taking place, obviously the Catholic Church itself has some repercussions. There's no kind of confirmed pope. There's kind of two of them at the moment. So as you can see in this next one, the papal bulls, they're all grayed out. You can't actually do anything while there's two popes kind of semi in the progress of becoming actual popes. So once one of these is elected, it looks like you can choose these again. The papal bulls become available, and then you can start taking actions. I wonder if you're not playing as the Papal States or someone directly involved, if you could take advantage of this, because you can see excommunication, you can't use that system. You can't use all the other ones as well. I wonder if you tried to do something unpious during this kind of interregnum period, if the new pope would then remember that you did it and then take retroactive action on you. It'll be interesting to see exactly how that plays out, because that could be some cool kind of mechanics or gameplay where you wait for this Curia vote to be happening and then take action that usually would get you in trouble with the Pope and see what happens afterwards. But that is what's going to happen as well. Next, they're going to show off the situation map mode, showing the countries that support each other. So this is pretty much just the graphical version of what we saw above. So you can see France on one side, the Papal States on the other side, and then the Crown of Castile, they're undecided. And I guess you could kind of sway them depending on which option you choose. There'll also be some other possible actions to gain support for each candidate, and some events may trigger randomly during the situation, and after a while, one of the candidates will gather enough support to reunite the Catholic Church again. You can see that here. The Catholic Church united again. After the council, the Church has been united under a new Pope. The Catholic Church remains whole and unbroken, but the authority of the Pope has been weakened during this period. Hopefully this will not have damaged our faith permanently. There'll be no other issues for the Catholic Church for the rest of history. Speaking of, the next thing they're going to talk about is the Reformation. After the year 1510, a certain monk will protest against the uses of the Church and begin the Reformation. So you can see the Lutheran Reformation, Martin Luther himself here. Thoughts of disapproval against the Roman Catholic Church are spreading across Europe, following the increasing practice of indulgences, raising questions about the greed of the Church. This is on basically like selling people the way into heaven, basically just farming some money off everyone. Not just that, a bunch of other things as well. We won't get into it all now, but this caused the Reformation to begin, and that is going to play out in this game as well. If you played EU4, I think a lot of people enjoyed the Reformation happening, where it would cause the wars of religion. It really mixed up the map depending on which countries fell into the Reformation or not, and really made for an interesting time frame in that game. So we'll see what happens with this one. Only time will tell, though, what this might bring. This will spawn a new situation similar to the last one, Reformation of the Catholic Church, and all about reforming the Catholic Church so people will not kind of stray away from it. So the birthplace of the Reformation is semi-dynamic. There are some weights in place, so it will usually trigger in a different place in the Catholic world. In the case they're showing now, Martin Luther was serving his duty in Perugia, Italy. So again, very similar to EU4, it didn't always start in the same place. It would randomly spawn in different areas of Europe, and that system is coming along here. I do like this. It kind of makes it a little bit more interesting. Different areas can have it, and you don't know exactly where it's going to come. So you can see here, our Chancellor reports Lutheranism, a new heresy has appeared in Christianity, and we just say, okay, and see what happens after that. So similar to the Western Schism, you can see here the situation panel. You can see Lutheran pops, the start date, Catholic population. You can see Martin there, very much looking like a monk. And then on top of that, you can see end requirements, which they're going to talk about later on. And then Lutheran preachers, we are going to talk about a bit in a second. And then it will list, I guess, the different kind of preachers that are actually active, like Martin Luther, spreading the word of this happening. So as we saw, one of those things was Lutheran preachers. Now, this is a little bit weird. I'm not sure. I think this will change before it comes out. But you can see here, Lutheran preachers is actually a building type. It isn't actually preachers. Now, I believe this is to show, again, if you played EU4, when the Reformation happened, you'd have these centers of Reformation, and they would like pulse out like Reformation changes. So that's how places would convert. They'd be like pulsing out conversion from that area to convert the local areas of the map. I think that's what this is trying to replicate in Project Caesar, but it being a building type is a little bit weird. Like it's called Lutheran Preachers, but it's a building. And then what this does is monthly religious conversion, 1%. Required production needs like books or literacy or whatever that one stands for. And this building, it represents the local missionaries of the Lutheran faith who spread their teachings to all nearby Catholic people. So again, I think it's to show like these pulsing Reformation centers, which is kind of what happened historically. You know, the preachers would go into different cities and then kind of spread their news, their teachings. But it being a building type, I don't know. I think either this needs to change so they're actually population, or otherwise, I think maybe even just a simple name change to like Lutheran pulpits or Lutheran centers of conversion. Definitely not that name, but something that isn't just Lutheran preachers. I don't know. If you come to this game and you don't really know, you know, like what's happening and you just pick the game up and then the Reformation happens, I think most people will be like, wait, it's a building, but it's Lutheran preachers. So I think either the name needs to change or this moves to like into the population system and you will see similar to like princes and princesses and, you know, royal members that are going to be actual characters. And we already can see these are actual characters. Like Martin Luther is going to be a character in the game. Maybe move it into that system. I'm not too sure. I just think this looks a little bit weird. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. We won't go over it anymore, but I think either the name needs to change or some kind of modification of this in some way. It's just a little bit weird that it's a building, but it's talking about Lutheran preachers. And you can see that in the next screenshot. So the 7 Lutheran preachers active is the buildings, not actual preachers, I believe. I believe that's what it's trying to say here as well. You can see Martin Luther and you can see Ulrich as well. Pavia does point out, yes, they do look identical in this UI. That is a bug they noticed when taking these screenshots, so they're not all going to look exactly the same. But these are basically two of the preachers themselves who are active in the world. In the next screenshot, it's actually a map view here. So the Second Reformer appeared in Switzerland, making the Free City of Bern a Lutheran bastion, and also 7 preacher buildings appeared. In this map mode, you can see the country's already converted to Lutheranism. The locations already have Lutheran population, and also other Protestant confessions are present, such as the Hussites in Bohemia. So again, you can see in this map, the kind of greyish purple, I guess, is the Protestant Lutheranism centres. That's where it's kind of spreading already. And then you can see the Hussites as well on there. So you're going to be able to see this spreading out and seeing how much the Catholic faith does convert over to this. Does it fully convert over, or is there a war of religion? And we'll see which side wins. So that is how that's going to work. The Reformation will last for a while, however, but these are the end requirements at the moment. So at least one of these has happened. And then it's about the Council of Trent or the War of Religions. So really, which one of those two things is going to happen to you? And then the last thing he's going to talk about, which links into that, is the Council of Trent itself. If the Reformation is still active and the Reformed desire, which was one of the modifiers we saw in the early screenshot, is over 50%, the Council of Trent will trigger the Reformation of the Catholic faith is here. Pope Alexander VII, he's going to go through the process of trying to reform the church, or at least give the impression that the church is reforming. You can see some very nice art in the background here. So you could convene the Council of Trent. This is trying to kind of stop that Reformation desire and kind of see how little, I guess, you can give away to these people to keep the church how you want it. And you can see here the event options. Convene the Council of Trent. It's going to cost 23 gold to do so, but then this will be called and it will happen. And when that does happen, you'll get the Council of Trent situation. Based in Trent, the Council of Trent is the Catholic attempt to stop the Reformation of the Catholic Church and overhaul the laws and policies of the Church. The main point of the council is to debate and eventually approve some new laws for the Catholic Church. And when these laws are voted and passed, it will end the council and end the situation. So you can see here, the Council of Trent, you've got the kind of two sides again at the top. It looks like that's always present in situations. The Pope is once again here. The end requirements that they'll talk about later on. No policy is currently in debate, but that will change as you go through this. The amount of debates succeeded and failed. So it looks like you've got to get one of these to 5. And then that will either cause this to happen or not happen. And then during the Council of Trent, the Catholic Church comes together to debate currently active and future laws. Every member is allowed to start a law debate to reform the Catholic faith. And then you go through this process. So no debates currently active. The following laws are available to be changed while the situation is active. The purchase of indulgence, papal authority, the Society of Jesus, the persecution of witchcraft. And you can kind of, like specialize the church a little bit, reform it, change how it's going to be for the rest of the game. And you can see here the end requirements, as we just talked about. One of these is active. At least 5 debates have passed. At least 5 have failed. It is the age of absolutism. It is the age of revolutions. So I guess if like nothing really happens in this, once you hit those other ages, it just ends anyway. And I guess nothing kind of changes with the church. And then the laws they were talking about, they're going to show a few of these off now. The first one is the purchase of indulgences, which was, as we saw, one of the reasons why this kind of started to happen. The purchase of indulgence allows the following policies, and there's 3 there. I'm not going to try pronounce them, but then you'll get to choose one of those 3 options, and that will be how indulgences work in the church going forwards if it is successful. The next one is the papal authority. Do they have like full authority, or does it become, I guess, a little bit more like a constitutional monarchy, I guess, where they're more of a figurehead? I guess that's what one of them does count towards, and you'll get to choose that. It's a shame they don't show, at least for one of these, what the options are, but I guess we might find out in another dev diary in the future. The veneration of saints and reliquaries is the next one, and again, there's those 3 options, and you get to choose one of those, or you get to put it up for vote, or vote it down, depending on what you want to do. And with that, that is the end of the dev diary this week. Again, we got a lot of Catholic stuff last week. This week we got this, again, very newsworthy, I guess, at the moment with what happened in real life. If you're watching this in the future, the Pope, unfortunately, left this world recently, so it was kind of weird timing here that Paradox was talking about this, and then exactly at the same time, the actual Pope died as well. So very apt, I guess, that we're talking about this week. Again, as I said at the beginning, we know on Friday they're going to be talking about the military orders of the Catholic Church, which is going to be really cool to see how they're going to play when you do get to play the game. Next week, they're actually carrying on with Christian stuff. So the Western Christian puzzle continues next week with mechanics on the different Protestant confessions and another situation, the War of Religion. That's going to be really cool to read about. and seeing how that's going to play out. I imagine it's going to be, again, another improvement on EU4 and seeing how that plays out in the game. But anyway, let me know what you think about today's Dev Diary. Leave a comment down below. Hit like if you've enjoyed the video today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm covering Project Caesar, aka EU5, up to official announcement, launch and beyond. And I also cover Crusader Kings 3 in a very similar manner if you do enjoy my videos. But anyway, we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you all next time.